Welcome to my Match, and today we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV. The new patch released last week, and I was planning around getting to record this episode because this episode is talking about the new patch. So, spoilers alert. I'll give it a couple seconds, and then we'll go into detail of this whole shebang. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your seconds are up. Okay, spoilers are gonna come out now. Okay, so this patch first off was great. The story was great. I'll be honest, and this is what I really wanted from Final Fantasy XIV. This is why I'm so critical, or at least I try to be critical at it sometimes, is because I just want good content, and the story was actually really good. So last off, on the last episode of Final Fantasy XIV, we met the other Queen Speen, who was the real one, and the other one was a fake one, controlled by someone, which we'll get into secondly. And I just love the Japanese voice acting of the evil Queen Speen because she just sounds like one of those kawaii anime characters, but it's like, oh gosh, she's fucking evil. Like, there is like a great really juxtaposition of both of those, of her being like this cutesy anime and then her being just totally psycho or a totally evil character that's being programmed. Starts off where we explain the real Queen Speen's events of what happened while she was in sort of the stasis in a living memory. So, everyone explains it to what happened, and you kind of feel bad for her because it's sort of a lot to take in because that's like 1,000 years of history and then all the shit that happened in like the last patches. So, yeah. So she wants to go in disguise and, learn about the people. Which I think this is a brilliant move by SquarePod, is they just condense it and sort of like this thing where you just click the spots and it'll tell you what each area, and then it'll lead to this cutscene where she has doubts of her place in a society. Even though this little boy comes up and thinks she's really, recognizes her for that she's Queen Speen, and she's like, I'm not Queen Speen, and the little boy is so adorable. It's like, bye, not Queen Speen. It's the cutest scene, but I get where she's coming from because, especially if like going to a new country and trying to fit in that society is hard enough because you gotta learn new language, new cultures, new custom norms. But being in a society that has passed 2,000 years, that's your own, and then trying to get claim to it, it's a hard adjustment for her. And of course, the big sort of theme with this, I think this is going to be going on with this expansion pack, Dawn Trail, is sort of the theme of death. Because that was sort of from the end of 7.0 all the way to now, is how to grieve with like loved ones when it comes to death. Because at the end of the day, when we go deliver stuff to people of their families' cherished items, at the end of the day, a lot of people struggle. Like they're grateful for the item, but they struggle also with the idea of death. And especially since like someone rewrote the regulators of the whole thing was the whole funeral with Speed was supposed to give them closure. Someone rewrote the regulators. Yeah, it's I think it's hard. And that also goes into where we meet the new villain, Sickly Emo Boy. I forgot his name. That's great. Oh, Calyx. Let's call him Sickly. He's, aka Sickly Emo Boy. But he's the one that's behind both Queen Speens and their sort of will to keep people alive. Like, I think the original one in 7.0 was sort of more pure because she wanted to protect the people at all costs. And like I said in so many reviews, that this is sort of a great foil to Woklama, and it was a great idea that they could have had like this sort of philosophical conversation at the end, or this sort of philosophical moment, but it failed. But anyways, so the new Speen, a simulacrum or copycat, essentially is essentially a pawn because both he wants to make all humans endless. Now, I'll get to him later. I'm giving a really bad. I'm giving really bad snaps, and then you go find him. You go through a dungeon, which is freaking fun. The last boss is pain because it kind of has some dirty moves. It really tricks you, and then sort of then you sort of fight. I forgot her name, but she looks like Beatrix from Final Fantasy IX, and I'm like, Beatrix, let's go, yay! Like I was so hyped to fight it, and then Roses of May, like a sort of more amped up version of it, plays when you fight it. It's so good. It's good. And then they stirs the pot when it comes to just Aeon people's fear of death because it was already there. And that's sort of what one of the cutscenes allude to. And what I find interesting is one of the people turn to dust. And I don't know if that's because they have the Neo regulators, the black ones. I was like, yeah, that might be a side effect of Neo regulators. But at the same time, it could be also if they use the regular regulators, they could just turn them to dust. And that might be a side effect of the regulators. Because in the raid series, if you be keeping up, the usage of the soul beast sort of gives them psycho something. It makes them Topa reveals that they could die. So essentially, going back to what they turn to dust, I could see that being just a side effect of regularly used too long. Like they will turn to dust, and it could be either one or both. Or it could be just like one of those weird uncontrolled side effects, like that nobody knows of, or it could be something that Calix planned. And I think Calix, I think he's just trying to stir the pot to get people to force their hands to sort of want the regulators more, or the neon ones. So they could be sort of experiments, because a lot of this has to go into his experiment, and that's sort of what I was thinking. I know my friends said that maybe I'm wrong, and I'm like, maybe I am wrong. I don't know. It's just we only got like 5 minutes of him, and he's trying to analyze the War of Light to see, I'm assuming, to see his combat prowess, because he's planning on something big. And I know the Neo regulators are also part of it. I just don't know like what it is essentially. However, and this is something that's interesting that I saw online, is if he knows of the other sources and shards. And I know the Assayians had primed one of the of like after the calamity, they were priming them for the rejoining, and that was I think the ninth one. And for me, I think with the Assayians gone at least, or supposedly gone, we don't know with the virus. Honestly, I'll be honest, I think it's sort of lazy writing to be like, oh yeah, the Assayians are back again. Um, to me, I just think that's like, oh yeah, it's just bringing back old things, and it's very lazy writing, in my opinion. However, I think the Assayians sort of try that realm, but with Calix being as smart as he is, I think he was probably onto them, or at least had some inkling of, hey, look, these guys aren't the best to work with, because they got some shady shit going on. Because essentially, he was a prodigy who made the Electro, and he was probably smart enough to be like, yeah, these people aren't best to work with, and sort of try their best to resist them, and just the Assayians worked on other places and would save that for last. That's my thought. I think, and since he knows about the Saiyans, and they might have whispered in his ear at one point about the other realms or other shards. If they're gone, it's like it's still fair game because it's his own goal now. But since they're all supposedly gone, and he knows about all the shards, it's sort of him pushing his goals forward. But that's just my thoughts about sort of that. And what do you guys think about the story? Did you like it? I mean, it was way better than 7.1, I'll be honest. I think the writers are doing better this time with this patch, and I hope they continue this trend. But yeah, so now we're going to into the raid series, which is a whole other shaboodle. Because I love the whole story between the two sisters and stuff. Like this is a great raid series. Um, so it's really good. You fight the fighters, each one. It's so like each raid series. The third and the fourth one are freaking tough, but the third one is, for my opinion, is even worse. The fourth one, what makes him hard is after he does a sort of limit break thing, he goes a lot faster. So you got to keep up with that pace. But the third one is just freaking crazy. The whole story is great. Um, I love the song for M5, and I'm trying to farm it a bit between playing Enjoy and the new Madoka Magical game. It's like, everything came out at once. Can you not do this? Please. you know, like, it's just everything dropped at once, and I'm just like, can we not do this? Thank you. But yeah, you got to sort of love how they sort of portray the wrestlers' personas, how they're actual people outside the ring. Freaking Brute Bomber got kitty cats. And I'm like, oh, what a bird! Give me the big kitties. And sort of how each person has their own personality and how they sort of don't break kayfabe. In like literally the Brute Bomber, when you have the third fight, the second fight with him, which is M7, he literally tries not to break character during the whole fight, which I think is pretty awesome. Or it shows his dedication because and this is, I think, probably going to go forward with the raid, is like a lot of people feel like they're indebted to the president of the of the Arcadian, and he was one of them. So he sort of never broke character, and he showed his dedication to that. Granted, I still want to kick Tim's butt, because, or at least kick him out of the arena, because he's like, oh my god, this ain't the brute bomber, it's a brute abomination. I'm like, this ain't the time for this, my dude, literally. But he is super sus, and I think he's a president. Because he seems to know everything, even about the psychokinesis that all the rest are suffering. I think it also, if the president's identity is shot in secret and no one knows, it's like, okay. I like, it's sort of that weird undercover boss situation where he knows all about his wrestlers and everything, and he doesn't have to reveal his identity, and he could sort of get to know them on a personal level. Plus, in the scene where the president makes his ransom after he kidnaps Eurotope and her sister, it comes up as familiar voice. Granted, this could be anyone, but right now, only person that we know that has been a recurring character, especially that would be a familiar voice, is Maytem. Other than that, who knows? It could be someone else. Or I could be wrong. All I know is this patch is great. And the dungeons are actually really fun. Oh, I hope Square keeps up this trend with the great stories. They actually did great this patch, and I hope it continues. Like I said. So, what do you guys think of this? Are you playing Final Fantasy XIV, or you're just playing other games? If you are, comment, like, subscribe, and then we stay healthy, stay hydrated. Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening.